Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development, Dr. Anxious Jongwe Masuka. As at 14 October 2024, a total of 237,000 metric tons of grains and oilseed from the 2023-2024 summer season had been marketed, of which 48,334 metric tons were delivered to the Grain Marketing Board. The total grain and oilseeds marketed comprises 130,244 metric tons of maize, 28,748 metric tons of soybeans, 8,156 metric tons of sorghum, 1,259 metric tons of sunflower, 51,299 metric tons of wheat, and 18,000 metric tons of barley. The government continues to put in place measures to ensure that farmers are paid in terms of the agreed time frame. Current stocks of maize, wheat, and traditional grains in the Strategic Grain Reserve stand at 228,712 metric tons, which is sufficient to last till January 2025. A total of 372,000 metric tons of grain is required to feed the rural population in need of food up to March 2025 at a rate of 7.5 metric tons, 7.5 kgs per person per month, whilst primary school learners will require 55,408 metric tons to April 2025 under the school's feeding program. The shortfall of 199,000 metric tons will be met from the projected 240,000 metric tons in terms of the winter wheat harvest surplus on annual requirements, modalities, and the government grain imports. A cumulative 185,132 metric tons of grain have been dispatched for social welfare distribution between February and October 2024 in order to expedite distribution of maize meal to schools, given that only 13,711 metric tons of the expected 27,531 tons for the third term have been collected by schools. The government of Zimbabwe will provide the required resources for milling, packaging, and the logistics to move stocks to the district GMB collection points, which are closer to the schools. Related to this, the Grain Marketing Board is now operating 50 agro shops, mostly in rural areas, as part of price stabilization efforts and enhancing the provision of affordable milling meal. The private sector, which is expected to import all the urban and stock feed requirements to March 2025, has imported a total of 812,165 metric tons of grain since April 2024. The ministry has issued 807 import permits to 420 companies to import 4,131,000 metric tons to March 2025 against an estimated deficit of 1 million metric tons. The issuance of import permits 4 times the estimated deficit has stabilized prices and eliminated arbitrage opportunities. Meanwhile, the 2024 winter cereals production is expected at 795,000 metric tons, which is 9.35 above the originally planned production program. A total of 114,761 metric tons of wheat has so far been harvested from the 22,153 hectares, translating to an average yield of 5.18 metric tons per hectare. Wheat delivered to the GMB is at 28,761 metric tons, out of which 26,417 metric tons is from other contracted farmers. In general, wheat harvesting is going on well, with 291 out of the available 391 combine harvesters deployed across the country for the program. Bird surveillance continues in all the provinces, and the necessary manpower and equipment are in place to counter any threats identified. The government of Zimbabwe has also introduced ward drought mitigation centers across all 1,620 wards. Treasury has availed the required resources for the establishment of all 1,035 ward centers in agroecological regions 4 and 5. The coordination of the various actors, including development partners, under the Drought Action Committee will ensure efficient use of scarce resources through avoiding duplication of effort. To date, the government of Zimbabwe has saved 101,000 livestock from death by providing 6,000 metric tons of silage and water. The Minister of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development, Honorable Dr. A.J. Masuka, also updated Cabinet on the 2024-2025 summer crops production plan, which was approved on 25 June 2024. The meteorological forecast has predicted a good rainfall season with normal to above normal rain. To further aid farmers in planning for the season, government issues planning, pre-planning and market crop prices at appropriate periods of the season. Accordingly, the pre-planting prices of maize, traditional grains and sunflower will be issued later this October, and for the first time ever, a cotton pre-planting price will also be announced. The summer plan aims to increase cereal production to 3,274,000. The overall production volumes of the major crops are expected to increase to 4 million metric tons. A total of 5.9 million plots have been prepared under the Pfumbudza Intwasa Presidential Agriculture Climate Proofing Input Support Scheme by 64% of the targeted farmers. Technical teams have been dispatched to the provinces to expedite the potholing. To date, over 40,000 metric tons of basal fertilizer out of the targeted 90,000 is now at GMB depots ahead of the 2024-2025 summer planting season launch in Muswere tomorrow. Meanwhile, contracting of farmers under the National Enhanced Agricultural Productivity Scheme is ongoing. A total of 52,500 hectares is targeted to be contracted to produce 256,000 metric tons of maize, traditional grains, soybeans, and sunflower. The Agricultural and Rural Development Authority will contract 100,000 hectares in order to produce 390,000 metric tons of maize and 112,000 metric tons of sorghum. The private sector, which is mandated by policy to ensure that at least 40% of its annual raw material requirements are met from value chain financing of farmers, has set a target of 95,046 hectares under maize, soybeans, sorghum, potatoes, sugar beans, and sunflower. Furthermore, some farmers will self-finance various crops and access inputs on the open market. Pertaining to tobacco, a total of 107,836 growers have registered for the 2024-2025 season. The area planted under irrigated tobacco is 20% above that recorded last year, whilst seed sales are at 37% higher. Cabinet would like to highlight that the 21 enablers being tracked under a whole of government and a whole of sector approach for the successful implementation of the summer plan are finance, irrigation, mechanization, water, seed, fertilizer, chemicals, power, fuel, pests and diseases, markets, farmer payments, capacity building, insurance, policy and regulations, coordination, monitoring and evaluation, land issues, infrastructure, security and disaster risk management. Cabinet considered and adopted the report on measures to enhance Zimbabwe's power supply security, which was presented by the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Honorable Professor Muswere, who is also the chairman of the Interministerial Committee established to analyze the power supply security issues. In order to attain Vision 2030 of an upper middle income society, there is need to enhance the supply of electricity to cater for the continuous growth of the economy, especially in the productive sectors. Presently, there is a deficit of up to 400 megawatts in local generation capacity. The country currently imports 200 to 500 megawatts to cover the shortfall. Despite now charging a cost-reflective tariff, the Zimbabwe Electricity Supply Authority still faces challenges which negatively impact its ability to deliver on its mandate of providing electricity to the nation. Accordingly, Cabinet approved a number of measures to enhance the country's power security. The structural challenges are being addressed by the Mtapa Investment Fund in a process involving the bundling or merging of some entities under ZESA, as recommended by the independent consultant who was commissioned to undertake the task. This will result in a more simplified and efficient governance and management structure. Supply-side interventions include the rehabilitation of Wange units 1 to 6 under a build, operate and transfer agreement which is set to commence this year. The Mtapa Investment Fund is also putting in place measures to cater for the foreign currency requirements for independent power producers to address the low uptake of net metering from solar-generated electricity. ZESA has been specifically directed to promote the facility and streamline the pertinent procedures and requirements in order to increase uptake. The loss of electricity during transmission is being attended to through the establishment of a joint venture between ZENT and QLV for the manufacture of cables and in dealing with theft and corruption. To enhance revenue collection, ZESA is being directed to speed up the installation of prepaid meters in order to effectively deal with debtors, while the Mtapa Investment Fund is establishing a foreign exchange discount facility against the ZESA's debtors book to meet the current creditors. Investment in research and development for the local manufacturing of various parts and components of power generation and transmission equipment is being promoted. The implementation of the foregoing measures will go a long way in enhancing ZESA's capacity to deliver on its mandate in terms of providing electricity to the nation. Cabinet considered and adopted the proposed Industrial Reconstruction and Growth Plan, which was presented by the Minister of Industry and Commerce, Honorable Mangaliso Ndlovu. Cabinet would like to advise that the Zimbabwe Industrial Reconstruction and Growth Plan 2024 to 2025 serves as a transitional framework for aligning industrial policy with National Development Strategy 2. Following the lapse of the Zimbabwe National Industrial Development Policy 2019 to 2023 in December 2023, this will address the immediate challenges faced by the manufacturing and the commercial sectors, while laying a solid foundation for accelerated industrial development under Zimbabwe National Industrial Development Policy in order to achieve Vision 2030 aspirations. In line with the 2025 budget strategy paper theme of building resilience